Hello, my name's Mrs Dunn and I'm the faculty leader for English at Harrogate Grammar School, and I'm going to be talking you through this PowerPoint which gives you more information about the GCSE English Language and English Literature course that your child will be taking. So in English GCSE, students actually receive two GCSE grades, one for English Language and one for English Literature, and we teach those courses consecutively, side by side, because the skills are very complementary. So for the English Language grade, students will sit two exams. The first exam paper being English Language Paper 1, in which students are asked to take a reading comprehension, questions 1 to 4, and then a writing question which asks them to demonstrate their creative and descriptive ability, as well as their accurate and sophisticated literacy and sentence and paragraph construction. Language Paper 2 asks them to do something similar to Language Paper 1, but they have introduced a more challenging reading material. So instead of one piece of fiction to read, Paper 2 asks them to read two non-fiction pieces, one written in the more modern times and the second probably from the 19th century. Again, there will be questions 1 to 4 based on comprehension and reading skill, and then there will be a writing section which asks students to give their viewpoint. They're asked to argue and persuade as successfully as they can, again being awarded for their cohesion, their literacy and their ability to formulate a convincing and compelling argument. The second award students will achieve is an English Literature grade. And similarly to the English language papers, there are two. Paper 1 then asks students to respond to a Shakespeare text and a text from the 19th century. We study Romeo and Juliet as our Shakespeare play, and we read Jekyll and Hyde as our 19th century novel. So English Literature Paper 2 sees students challenged that little bit further, in that they are asked to cover 3 different sections of an exam. The first section of the English Literature Paper 2 is asking students to answer a question on what is termed a modern fiction or drama text. And this is where teacher choice comes into play, and students will study either An Inspector Calls, Animal Farm or Lord of the Flies, and the class teacher will determine which of those texts they feel is most appropriate for that class. This will be told to students prior to them reading this story. The second section then is students read and study one cluster of poetry. This poetry anthology is called Power and Conflict and is given to us by AQA. The third section of this exam is then testing students' ability to approach a poem that they have never seen. The current English curriculum changed in 2017, and so I'm just going to briefly outline what some of those changes are that have an impact on the examination process for your child. There are in English no alternative pathways, so all students follow the same course and sit exactly the same examinations. There is no tiering, there is no higher, and there are no foundation papers, so every student sits exactly the same paper, which gives every student the potential to achieve as highly as they aim and as they produce in the exam. There are now no controlled assessment elements, so all qualifications are based on examinations. And finally, and quite differently to previous courses, all the exams are closed book. So students are not allowed to take the text into the exam. They must learn and know those texts. In language and literature, there are some helping points. In the literature exam, for example, there are extracts from the text the students have studied, but they must be able to refer to the whole text and know quotations from those texts and from those poems in order to help them achieve the higher grades. So what have we done to this point in preparation for GCSE? Well, all year 9 into 10 students have actually studied the 19th century novel Jekyll and Hyde for its characterisation, its plot and its structure. And we will be revisiting this on the GCSE course in preparation for passing the exam style question. All students in year 9 into 10 have studied a selection of the GCSE poems from the anthology referred to on the previous slide. So they are familiar with some of the themes and some of the issues which those poems cover. We've also prepared students to answer a question on Shakespeare, because throughout Key Stage 3, students have studied 2 Shakespeare texts, A Midsummer Night's Dream in Year 7 and Macbeth in Year 9. Equally, for the question 5s on language paper 1 and 2, students are very familiar with the Big Write lesson, which we have practiced throughout Key Stage 3, which has seen them rehearsing those writing skills all the way through Year 7, 8 and 9 in preparation for the demonstration of those key skills at Year 11. We are also, as teachers, now very familiar with this new curriculum, and our results clearly demonstrate that we have prompted and taught and mentored students through this new course in order for them to be as successful as they can. I'd just like to end this presentation then with some appeals really for as much home support as we possibly can. What can you be doing at home to support your child to achieve in school in English? First and foremost, we'd like to ask you to help them to complete their home learning and to be as organised as possible. So teachers in English at GCSE will set regular homeworks via our homework app on the iPad, and we encourage you to support your child in achieving those homeworks on time and to be the best work that they can produce. We'd also like you to purchase the copy of the texts that students will be studying. Particularly at this time and during the COVID pandemic, it is really advisable that students have their own copy to be able to annotate and to take in and out of school. And we will be in contact further about how students can do that, but we as a school will purchase those texts and you will be able to buy them from us. So further information will come out to you about that soon. We also want you to encourage your child to read as widely as possible, not only the set texts which we study, but both fiction and non-fiction texts. And whilst we encourage this through school and through our lessons, we ask that you do the same at home. And there is a reading list available on our website with choices that your child might enjoy reading. Equally, we encourage the continuity of attendance to lessons, and I know particularly at this very challenging time that can be quite hard when students perhaps have to self-isolate or at home unwell. We just appeal for you to be in contact with school to let teachers know that, and where possible to ensure that students access our online lessons. And last of all, and I'm sure not the most difficult one, is to encourage students to have their own opinions. Every student very clearly has an opinion and can voice them, but we'd encourage you to have those conversations in a sophisticated way as possible, to encourage students to build a viewpoint, to share a viewpoint, and to ensure that they are then confident enough to construct an argument when it comes to sitting an English exam. We'd also ask that you encourage your child to revise, and we will be prompting students to use independent websites like the BBC Bitesize or the Oak National Academy in order to assist them with their revision.